Hello, my dear friends. I'm so glad you've decided to spend a little time with me today. Now, I've been around for quite some time, 80 years in fact, and in all that time, I've learned a thing or two about what really matters in life. People often think that as you grow older, life slows down, and you start losing the things that once made you feel vibrant and full of energy. But let me tell you something. Nothing could be further from the truth. Age, my friends, is just a number. It doesn't define who you are or how you live your life. You see, over the years, I've seen many friends and family members get caught up in the idea that once you reach a certain age, you have to settle into a life of slow-paced days and quiet nights. It's true that the body changes. Some days I wake up and my back feels like it's made of stones, and I can't move as quickly as I used to. But what I've also realized is that there's so much we can still do, even when the years start piling up. The secret, I think, is not in avoiding the passage of time, but in making the most of it. There are certain things, 5 in particular, that if you can still do them when you're 70, 80, or even older, you are a rare gem. You're not just aging, you're thriving. Let me share this with you. The first time I realized how fortunate I was to still be able to do these things was one quiet morning as I sat in my garden. I looked around at the life I had built, the friends, the family, the experiences, and I thought, I've lived a good life, but I still have so much more to give. That was a moment of clarity for me, and I realized that there's no age limit on living fully. If you can still walk, laugh, learn, and take care of yourself, you're truly blessed. You see, these aren't just things we do. They're signs that we're still in the game, still engaged in life, still appreciating every day for what it brings. Now, I'm not going to tell you that everything gets easier with age. It doesn't. But there's a quiet joy in knowing that you can still wake up with a sense of purpose. There's something deeply satisfying about being able to say, I'm not done yet. And I want to tell you that if you can still do these 5 things, you are truly one of the lucky ones. Trust me when I say, you are a rare gem, and that's something to be proud of. I'll never forget the day I first realized how important it was to keep moving. It wasn't some big revelation or dramatic moment. It was just a quiet morning, much like this one. I had just finished my breakfast, and as I sat in my chair, I felt an ache in my back. It's funny, when you get older you start paying more attention to these little aches and pains. But as I sat there, I thought, is this it? Am I supposed to just sit here now and let the years pass by? I didn't like the thought of that. So, I got up and went for a walk. Nothing special, just down the path in front of my house. But as I walked, something incredible happened. I noticed the way the morning light danced on the trees, how the birds were chirping, how the flowers were beginning to bloom. I hadn't taken a walk like that in a while. I was always so busy, running here and there when I was younger. But now, it felt different, almost like I was reconnecting with the world around me. The air was fresh, the earth under my feet felt solid, and it was as if I could feel the rhythm of life all around me. That walk became my morning ritual. Every day I would lace up my shoes and walk down that path, slowly at first, feeling the creaks in my knees and the stiffness in my joints. But with each step, I noticed something. My body started to loosen up. The aches didn't go away completely, but they didn't feel as heavy as before. And that's when I realized, staying active, even in small ways, was keeping me young. I know there are days when I wake up and I feel like I just want to lie in bed. I mean, who doesn't feel that way sometimes, especially when your joints remind you of your age? But I push through it, because I've learned that if I don't move, I'll only feel worse. So, whether it's a morning walk, stretching my legs, or simply doing a few gentle exercises, I make sure I stay active. Let me tell you, if you're still able to walk, stretch, or even just move your body in whatever way works for you, you're doing something special. You might not feel like an athlete, and that's okay. But you're doing something for your health that can help you stay independent longer. You're telling your body that it's not done yet. And believe me, that's a gift you don't want to take for granted. I often see people my age who have stopped moving altogether, and I can see how much it affects their energy and outlook. Movement, even the simplest kind, is what keeps the fire inside us alive. It keeps us from feeling like life is slipping away. So if you can still get up and move, even if it's just a short walk down your own path, you're already ahead of the game. I'll tell you, my friends, there's nothing like the joy of a good conversation. When I was younger, I was always on the go. always rushing from one thing to the next, trying to meet deadlines, running errands, keeping up with the fast pace of life. But as the years went by, I realized something very important. No amount of success or achievement can replace the value of human connection. It was one afternoon, just a few years ago, when it really hit me. I had been feeling a bit down, nothing serious, just the kind of tiredness that comes with age. I was sitting in my living room, reading the newspaper, and my old friend Raj stopped by. Now, Raj and I have been friends for over 40 years. We've shared a lot of memories, laughed over many cups of tea, and supported each other through thick and thin. He knocked on the door, as he always does, and when I let him in, there was that familiar, comforting feeling. Seeing a face that you know so well, a face that has shared in the joys and struggles of your life. Raj sat down at the kitchen table with me, and we just started talking. At first, it was about the weather. Then, of course, we started reminiscing about the good old days, the adventures we had, the silly things we did when we were younger. And before we knew it, hours had passed. It wasn't anything spectacular, no grand event or exciting news, but the simple act of sitting down and chatting with an old friend, reminiscing about life, was so fulfilling. It reminded me of how important it is to stay connected, to continue sharing moments with those you care about. As we grow older, it's easy to isolate ourselves, to retreat into our own world. I've seen it happen to many of my friends. They get to a certain age and they stop making an effort to meet up, to talk, to share their lives. They begin to think that they're too old for such things, but that's when I remind myself of how much these connections matter. They keep you grounded. They keep your spirit alive. I've learned that the best thing we can do for ourselves, no matter our age, is to stay social, to keep meeting people, to keep laughing and talking. It doesn't matter if it's over tea, a simple phone call, or a visit with a friend. The important thing is that you're not alone. So, if you're still spending time with family, still sharing stories with friends, you're living life in the fullest sense. You're keeping your heart and mind open, and that's what keeps you young, my dear friends. You know, it wasn't always like this. When I was younger, I was so caught up in the hustle and bustle of life that I rarely took time to sit down and truly read or learn something new. I was busy with work, with family, with everything life threw my way. But as I've gotten older, I've discovered that one of the most precious gifts we can give ourselves is the gift of curiosity, the thirst to keep learning, to keep growing. I remember a few years ago, sitting in this very chair, feeling a bit weary of the world. The news was full of all sorts of chaos, and I felt like the world was moving at a pace that I just couldn't keep up with. It was then that I realized I had a choice. I could either sit back and let time pass me by, or I could embrace the opportunity to learn something new, something that would keep my mind sharp and engaged. So I began to read. And I don't mean just the newspapers or the occasional magazine. I dove into books, history, philosophy, science. And let me tell you, the more I read, the more fascinated I became. Just a few months ago, I picked up a book on space exploration. Now, when I was a young man, the idea of space travel seemed like something straight out of a science fiction novel. But now, at 80, I find myself completely captivated by the idea of astronauts floating in space, the incredible technology that takes them there, and the mysteries of the universe waiting to be discovered. And it's not just books. I watch documentaries, I listen to podcasts, I ask questions. I believe in the power of a curious mind. You see, curiosity doesn't have an expiration date. Just because you're getting older doesn't mean your mind has to stop growing. If anything, I think it's even more important to keep your mind active as you age. And I'm not talking about memorizing facts or impressing people with what you know. It's about staying open to new ideas, to new perspectives, to new possibilities. A few months ago, I was having lunch with my granddaughter, and she was telling me about artificial intelligence. Now, I'll admit, I didn't know much about it, but I listened carefully, asked questions, and by the end of our conversation, I found myself amazed at how much had changed in the world. My granddaughter had opened my eyes to something I had never even thought about before. So, my dear friends, if you're still learning, whether it's reading books, watching something educational, or simply asking questions, you're doing something right. You're keeping your mind sharp, your heart curious, and your soul alive. Never stop asking, never stop wondering. There's always something new to discover, no matter how old we are. You know, One of the things I'm most grateful for in my life is the ability to take care of myself. Now, I'll admit, there was a time when I didn't think much about it. When you're younger, you don't give a second thought to doing things for yourself. You go about your day, you work, you run errands, and you have no problem doing things around the house. But as you grow older, you start to realize how precious your independence is. A few years ago, I had a wake-up call. I had gone through a period where I was a bit under the weather, and I found myself feeling like I wasn't able to do the things I used to. There were moments when I thought, maybe it's time to let go of some things. Maybe I need to rely on others more, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was still so much I could do. So I started small. I decided that I wasn't going to let my age stop me from looking after myself. The first thing I did was cook a simple meal, a stew to be exact. It was nothing fancy, but it was something I had cooked many times before. I put the ingredients together, chopped the vegetables, and stirred the pot with a sense of pride. And you know what? It felt good. It felt like I was still in control of my life, still able to create something nourishing for myself. Now, every morning, I make my own breakfast. I go to the market, pick out my vegetables, and decide what I'll cook for the day. I even take care of my garden, something I've always loved doing. I'm not running marathons or lifting heavy weights, but I'm staying active by keeping up with these little things. And that, to me, is what independence is all about. The beauty of taking care of yourself, especially as you get older, is that it gives you a sense of purpose. When you rely on others too much, there's a part of you that begins to feel like you're losing a piece of yourself. But when you're able to get up in the morning, make your bed, prepare a meal, and take care of your own needs, there's a quiet satisfaction that comes with it. If you're still doing these things, whether it's cooking, cleaning, or managing your home, you're holding on to something incredibly valuable. It's not just about keeping your body active, it's about keeping your spirit strong. You're showing yourself and the world that you're not done yet. You're still capable, still independent, still living life on your terms. Let me tell you a story about a moment that changed the way I see aging. It wasn't anything dramatic, no big event, just a quiet evening when I was sitting alone in my living room. I had just turned 75, and I was feeling a little weary, both physically and emotionally. It wasn't that I was unhappy, mind you. It was just that I'd started to notice how much more difficult some things had become, like walking upstairs or getting out of bed in the morning without feeling like my body was a bit creaky. I remember sitting there, thinking to myself, am I just getting old? Is this the way it's supposed to be? But in that moment, something shifted. I realized that aging didn't mean I had to give up on the things I loved. In fact, it was the very opposite. It was an opportunity to embrace everything I still had the ability to do and to be grateful for it. I decided then and there that I wasn't going to sit back and let the years slip away. I wanted to stay active, stay engaged with life. But more than anything, I realized I wanted to keep my mind sharp. And that, my dear friends, is where the real power lies. You see, aging isn't just about the body, it's about how you choose to live, how you choose to keep your mind active and full of life. The next day, I made a decision that I would start learning something new every day, even if it was just a little bit. At first, I began with something simple, a crossword puzzle, something to stretch my mind a little. But as I continued, I started learning about new topics, science, history, philosophy, things I had always been curious about but never had the time to explore before. It wasn't about impressing anyone with what I knew, it was about keeping my brain engaged, giving myself a purpose each day. And here's the thing I want to share with you. If you're still keeping your mind active, if you're still learning and growing, you're doing something incredible. You're proving to yourself that aging doesn't mean slowing down in the most important way. Sure, your body might not be as fast as it once was, but your mind, your curiosity, your ability to question, to reflect, and to learn can keep you young. I remember a few months ago, I started reading about the idea of mindfulness and meditation. Now, I had never thought much about these things before, but I gave it a try. At first, I struggled to sit still and quiet my thoughts, but over time, I found it gave me a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. It's these small things, these moments of learning and self-discovery that make life so rich, no matter how old you are. So, if you're still challenging your mind, whether it's learning a new skill, reading a book, or simply trying something new, you're living with purpose. You're keeping the spark alive inside you. And that, my friends, is what makes you rare and special. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't learn, can't grow, or can't stay curious as you age, because the truth is, if you're still learning, you're still living. Well, my dear friends, I've shared a bit of my journey with you today, and I have to say, I'm grateful for the chance to talk about these things because, as we age, it's so easy to feel like we're losing our way, like our best years are behind us. But I want to remind you that aging doesn't have to be a time of slowing down or giving up. It's a time to reflect, to celebrate what we've learned, and to keep striving to live our best lives. You've heard me say it throughout this conversation. If you're still able to move, still able to learn, still able to care for yourself, and most importantly, if you're still engaged with life, then you're rare. You're a gem, a beautiful example of what it means to truly live, not just exist. And that, my friends, is something to be incredibly proud of. I can tell you from my own experience, as you grow older, you realize that the secret to life is not in stopping, but in continuing to move, to learn, to grow, and to be curious. Now, I hope that these stories and lessons from my life have inspired you in some way. I want you to take a moment and really think about the things you are still able to do, the things that keep your heart beating with joy. Hold on to those things and cherish them, because they are what will carry you through the years to come. And while we're on the subject of holding on to what matters, I want to invite you to continue this journey with me. I know that many of you are probably wondering, how can I keep my life just as vibrant and active as it is now? Well, if you found anything useful in the stories I've shared today, I encourage you to stay connected with us here. There's a wealth of wisdom, tips, and advice that I believe will help you navigate this journey of aging with grace and vitality. I highly encourage you to subscribe to Elderly Hacks. This is a place where we share not only stories, but also practical tips, hacks, and inspiration for keeping our minds and bodies in top shape. We talk about everything from simple exercises to mindfulness practices, from self-care to learning new skills, things that can help you live your best life, no matter your age. So, don't let this be the last time you hear from me. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and come back regularly. Let's continue this conversation, and let's grow together. I believe that, no matter where we are in life, there's always something new to learn, something new to try. Together, we can face the future with strength, purpose, and a whole lot of heart. Thank you for spending this time with me. And remember, you're not alone on this journey. I look forward to sharing more with you soon. Until then, take care of yourselves and keep thriving.